years ago, and I live by it. If you don't know what you want to do, find someone who does and get behind them and support them. And guess what? It's called a job. You're doing it right now if you don't have a business. That's what we do. Someone had a vision and we're helping them with their vision and they're paying us to do it. Wow. How many times have you thought of it that way? It took me years, but when I heard that quote and I wasn't sure how to take my passion and turn it into profits, that's what we do. We get jobs and we help the people who did figure it out. You're listening to the Money Doctor, Money Talk for Modern Entrepreneurs podcast. You're listening to the founder, Mildred Dillon, CPA, and I can tell you after decades of working for myself, being an entrepreneur is more than just getting up and going to work. We've got to plan the work. Then we've got to find the people to help us do the work, and that work better produce income sufficient enough to support ourselves and our families and our futures. And that's a lot. But we've got you covered. On each and every episode of this podcast, we're going to be diving into the lives of modern entrepreneurs, mine, but also others, sharing tips and strategies to help us get the work done, enjoy the journey, and with a lot less stress. So you ready? Buckle up and let's get to work. Okay, you're listening to the May episode of Money Talk for Modern Entrepreneurs podcast. And wow, what a month of May. Last time you heard from me, I was going into a seminar, family finance seminar, and we had that. It was amazing. It is on demand now. So you're able to go and hear what we talked about. Mainly, if you want to pay less taxes, that was the theme. Kind of late for that if people have already filed, but quite a few people that I'm meeting haven't. Although I have been working hard to get clients filed. But the goal is to strategize ahead of time so that when you go to file, you're paying less taxes. And we talked about how to make this a family affair, with May being Mental Health Awareness Month. It's a really good time to do a check-in. And especially on our kids, teens, family members, ourselves. And so one of the ways to do that is to take advantage of these summer months by getting the kids involved. And so I talked about on a very basic level how to do that from even the tiny, tiny little ones at home. Really excited to do that because I don't talk about the Money Doctor Jr. often, themoneydoctorjr.com or on Instagram. I don't talk about them often because, kids don't really file taxes and they don't need accounting systems and things like that. But my clients with family members definitely have some opportunities there. So we kick things off on that basic level that even if you don't have a business, you have kids, here's some ways to start doing that. So then when you get to the next level, we talked about the beginner stage there, and then we went to the business stage. You've got a business. Now we can hire your kids through that business, and that's what we're creating some tax savings. It's pretty awesome. And getting them into the entrepreneurial mindset. Keep in mind, they're already getting a little paycheck at home in the first stage. But now we're doing it officially with W-2s and pay stubs and things like that. Imagine if you've gotten that start at home when you were young, understanding how all that works. Well, I'm imagining it. I don't really remember getting allowance. I'll be honest. I don't think I did. I was just told what I had to do. But, times have changed. So here's a great way to do that. And then finally, we touched on it very high level. But wow, it was so interesting to see Terry kind of map out, here's what happens if you pay your kids that $13,000-ish, standard deduction, by the way. That's how we get that number. Here's what happens if they put that money into a fund that gets compound interest from that very first one or part of the first one or at some point up until their college age, up until they're retired. Oh my gosh, they're millionaires. Literally, the plan is called $1 Million Baby. Isn't that awesome? So I'm just excited to be a part of that type of education. Again, it's out there. It was such a great experience, such a great workshop that somebody got the mindset to do it again. So we ended up with part 2 a few weeks later. So yeah, I had a really busy month, but let me tell you about part 2. If you're a highly paid W-2 earner, I mean, you're in the doctor range or the pilots or people who make tons of money, but they do it from jobs, getting crushed on taxes right now. It's a really big deal. So those are actually the people who requested a seminar. Hey, we need something for us. What can we do if we don't have a business? And I'll be honest, Schedule Cs, K1s, businesses get the breaks. Corporations, partnerships, we get the best tax breaks. But believe it or not, there are lots of strategies to still reduce your taxes if you're not going to just go the business route. But I did paint a pretty good picture of different ways business can look. It doesn't have to be, 80-hour work weeks or more. That's what I'm going to be talking about on this episode, is how to build a business that you can scale and still have free time. Loads of free time. I'm going to tell you, I don't look like it. People wouldn't think it. I have loads of free time. It's what's given me the opportunity to really build up my online presence, do this podcast, do some of the really neat things like the workshop and all that goes into preparing for that workshop. Now it's scalable. It's literally a YouTube you can watch. All those things, I had to have free time to create it. So yeah, I'm still working those crazy hours, but I'm building platforms. I showed up on a Zoom yesterday, a potential new team member in another state. She talked about the podcast she found my Instagram page, and she'd watch my videos, and she was literally able to give what I've been saying back to me on one Zoom. It was crazy. I need to scale as we expand our team and even bring on some other ambassadors who are getting 1099s. I heard this years ago and I live by it. If you don't know what you want to do, find someone who does and get behind them and support them. And guess what? It's called a job. You're doing it right now if you don't have a business. That's what we do. Someone had a vision and we're helping them with their vision and they're paying us to do it. Wow. How many times have you thought of it that way? It took me years, but when I heard that quote and I wasn't sure how to take my passion and turn it into profits, that's what we do. We get jobs and we help the people who did figure it out. And so I want to talk about that in this episode. It's summertime now. I guess kids are out of school or they'll soon be out of school or summer break. But I've got 5 steps. 5 is the number of grace. I think that's why I use so many of my systems and steps and solutions in 5. There are 5 kids with the Money Doctor kids, and there are 5 steps to the Money RX and just 5. So I want to talk about how do you build a business that scales, that can run without you and actually create money, but create free time. Step 1, first, you have to have a vision to have that kind of business. Not just you want a business, but you want that kind of business. I will say I was blessed to stumble across Michael Gerber's E-Myth. And I know he's revisited it and did several versions. People have told me about it. Michael Gerber's E-Myth over 20 years ago changed my life. I was a CPA at that point. I definitely was. But I had all these licenses. I talked about some of those on the last episode. I had my insurance licenses. I had my real estate broker license. And I was making money from all of them in some way. I was still doing accounting and taxes. I had my consulting where I was doing it there, as a CPA. This was way before Money Doctor, but not too much before Money Doctor. I stumbled across his book and he talks about systems and how to create systems. It's a very shocking opening to the book, but it gets your attention, especially as business owners, entrepreneurs. It's called the E-Myth, the entrepreneurial myth. And the myth is all the things we do wrong that don't take us to that utopia, that ultimate business that I'm describing. because we end up owning a job. I'm sure it was at the same time or after this, I really became a student of Robert Kiyosaki and his cash flow quadrants. And he talks about the same thing. As a self employed person, you own a job if you don't put systems in place. You will end up owning a job. And how many people have you seen? I can think of some of them, quite a few over the years, who they have a business, but they hate their lives. Their business is their life. So after reading that book, and then of course a little bit further along, Robert Kiyosaki basically saying, yeah, if you don't do this a certain way, you're going to end up in that S quadrant, on that left side of the quadrant, which E, okay, you've got a job, but hopefully I'm giving you a different way to look at your job, because any of my services cost money. You're going to need money to invest in your business, but also invest in the help for me or whoever else. So, it's not a dirty word. It doesn't have to be jobs, but look at that money as seed money for your dream, because it is. So to end up owning, which is the next quadrant, owning a job is even worse because you don't get vacations. You don't get to take time off. And I love my parents for starting our family business. It obviously gave me the business edge. I saw it years later, but we stopped taking vacations. My dad was always at the business. Now, late in life, he has admitted, well, I love working. I like working all the time. Okay, that's great, Dad. I never wanted to have my own business after watching it done like that. Just never wanted to. And I'm able to put that in context now. He was in retail. I'll say he, because at some point my mom just kind of let him have it in a nice way. I'm saying it in a nice way. Let him have it, And so, yeah, he's in retail, real estate, insurance agency, collecting payments. Back then, we didn't have all the stuff that we have now. So it was a very manual, people drop off their payment type process. And you're not going to not let people in if they're trying to give you money. So you open up the door, turn the sign around. Okay, we're back open at 8 o'clock at night. Yeah, that's how I grew up. That's what scarred me look, in a good way, which is why I knew I didn't want a business like that. Actually, I said I didn't want a business, but after 7 years in corporate, I had to rethink that. Okay, maybe I don't want to do this corporate thing either. But this book, like I said, put it in perspective. So you need to commit to creating a business that can run without you. That's step one. Have a vision for it. So what does it look like? And the good news is, as you're listening to this podcast, obviously there's so many things like that. Franchises, you can, even though with a franchise, it's still some hands-on, but at least they did all the heavy lifting for you. Businesses online, these funnels that we build that can bring money in while we sleep. All of those are ways to have businesses that just don't zap you, wipe you out, and you never have a life. So that's step one. And I guess you get the point, right? Create something, have a vision, be committed to, catch yourself in the act, make sure you're doing it. You're sticking to that vision. So step two, you need to put money towards that. Be willing to invest in a coach such as myself, shameless plug, who can teach you in your day-to-day how to begin making it a system and make the investment in the technologies, make the investment in the coaches. Technology it could be your biggest investment, but I'll tell you this, it doesn't call in sick. It doesn't need vacations, all the things. Okay, so that's shameless plug even for technology. Those are the benefits. But you need to be committed to that vision with your money. And so we're all about helping you all year long, of course, with that topic. So I won't spend a lot of time on it here, but it really just means invest in you, invest in the systems, invest in the people who figured out how to do that. I'm going to tell you, they're not cheap. I'm about to now put another couple $1,000s into a program. So that puts me at about $5,000 for the year, just learning how to continue to build my business online to where, as you heard me say in the opening, a person meets me, they already know about me. Ideally now they're in my world and they're paying for something without talking to me. See what I'm saying? I have it created. I just need to get the experts or figure out how, and I don't really want to do it myself anymore. I'm kind of burnt out with that, but it was good for me to do it. The point I'm making is I'm well into that process. I've created things that people can take advantage of without me. It's just connecting the two. And so that takes money. I mean, you're going to get educated some kind of way. We're seeing our younger generation kind of check out on college, going back to trade schools even. You're going to invest in education or skills somewhere. What I don't see enough of, and it saddens me, is entrepreneurs being willing to invest in themselves that way. If you're going to write a check to that university hoping, fingers crossed over here, you can't see it, but they are, that you get a job, or hoping that you can come out with your MBA and run a business, good luck with that, because so much of that is still corporate. So much of what you learn, I know because I have an MBA, it's corporate. It's not small business. It's not running your own business. And so it's almost like we're set up to fail in so many ways because the only option is to look at how everybody else did it. I call copy off their paper. Well, again, I was able to, even in my corporate job, look around and see where I'd be in 2 years, 5 years, 15, 20 years. I didn't like what I saw and I got out of there. It's the same with business. You can look at people in business and say, I don't want that. You just don't want to have that type of business. So just think about that and be prepared to invest. Invest in you. Put some money towards your vision. That shows you're committed. Here's your third step. So we already talked about having a vision. We talked about putting some money towards that vision to prove. Okay. Automate. Step 3. I've already touched on technology. I kind of do it all year. I'm going to tell you, part of that investment from step 2 is it needs to be for automation. It needs to be subscribing to platforms and, having the subscriptions every month, but the coaches who can teach you how to use that automation. Automate your business. I almost say hire automation before you hire a person. That sounds kind of nuts probably, huh? Because most people think, okay, I got to go hire somebody. And you know what? They do. And you know what they get? They get a nice little payroll expense every week, every other week, every month, or however, before they figured it out. When you go to automate, you're going to have to figure it out. You're going to have to that's why I tell people when I teach QuickBooks, a lot of times, is so much of it is on paper first. Let's think about what we're trying to do with the system. When I would teach it in class, now, again, automation has taken over so many of those steps. But you're going to be asked questions. You need to know the answers. It forces you to figure it out when you automate first, then hire. It also, automation may show you don't even need to hire someone. Automation can do it for you. Now, I hate the fact automation is costing jobs. AI has come in here and it is already, I didn't make this up. But tell you what, if you don't get with the program, you're going to end up like a lot of these big corporations who are cutting the fat now. I hate to say it, but I kind of touched on it last episode. It's people they're cutting is a lot of the fat. You don't want to get caught up in that number, but you don't want to be one of those businesses who finds out after the fact, we can't even afford all these people. Max out with automation first. Figure out your processes first, run them through automation, then you can hire smart, you can hire for the long run. And this is what I tell people, my plan always was, I'm going to hire people to run the automation, okay? Because you do need to be looking in and checking in and doing some things. The people, have your people do that. Automation is doing the heavy lifting. And I'll tell you this too, you'll save a fortune. Fourth step. You've got the vision. You're putting the money towards your vision, which proves you're committed. You're automating. So you could be doing multiple jobs because you're automated. You have automation doing it. Now you document. Document. This is what I'm spending a lot of my coaching time helping clients do it. I love it. Documenting systems, creating the standard operating procedure. It sounds so advanced, doesn't it? No, it's simple as step 1. What did I just do? Step 2. Then I did what? Step 3, step 4, step 5. You are literally, it doesn't have to be pretty at first. What did I just do? What did I say on that sales call? You remember I talked about the call that I had, the Zoom that I had yesterday, and it's recorded. I'm going to go back and say, okay, what did I say first? Okay, what did I ask her? Because it was great conversation starters. It kept the conversation moving. I was able to get the right information. So this is what I'm talking about. Recording that yesterday was part of this documentation process, because we can go back and actually that's something my VA can do. She can listen to it and then list out the steps that I used for that interview. So duplicate is the last step. Once you document, now you can really duplicate. Now's the time to get that person on board and see if they can do this job without you. I did this over 10 years ago. Up until COVID, I had a team, at one point 4 people. And let me tell you, it was a joy to watch them. I go to a networking. We have our system for them to follow up. We had our CRM for me to wherever I was. And I'm looking at my system and I'm seeing who called who and what happened, what the outcome was, and now what the next step should be. And then I can assign a task right there from my phone, still sitting at still sitting at the bar, in between innings or in between whatever. And it was amazing traveling at the airport, wherever I was still connected, but other people were doing the job. That's what I mean by duplicate. And I'm in that process now of revamping, actually post-COVID. So now we're going on 4 years. Post-COVID, revamping. Some of it we're keeping, some of it we're not, because the times have changed. Automation is now doing a lot of my follow-up, not a person. See what I was saying? I didn't make the rules. I'm just playing the game. I'm trying to win, okay? And you want to win too. So that's what I mean by duplicate. Test your processes. Test out your documentation. If somebody gets stuck, guess what? I skipped a step. I'm known for that because we do that when we're doing the job and we know it and we can do it in our sleep. Well, that's not the next person. They're not coming into it with that awareness. You have something that can be duplicated, that other people can do on your behalf. That's how you build a business that can run without you. And I'll go ahead and say it, a business that can scale for the long haul. All right, that was a lot. But let me just tell you as I wrap up this episode, what's going to happen. All right, I'm going to, during the month of June, so we're into May now, I've already got June kind of prepared to introduce you to some of the parents from some prior episodes, but also some current ones that are really embracing this concept of family finances. I mean, this is the time. Your kids are going to summer camp or they're not, or they're sitting around the house. Here's some ways to get them moving, get them active, get them involved, but start giving them a money awareness. So that's what I'm going to be talking about in the month of June. You don't have to wait, though. You can go to the Instagram page, The Money Dr. JR, and see already some of the content that's posted, but I'm going to begin revamping and posting more. We've been invited to a summer camp. We're in talks with that right now to actually deliver this live in front of 2 locations, actually. So that's pretty exciting. So hopefully if we do that, we'll have definitely more footage, more concepts to share. But the idea is to make finances a family affair, because I'm going to tell you, I've seen it. I know it from experience. The family that pays together saves together. Okay. So we show you how to do that. You bring the kids, we bring the lessons. The Money Dr. JR. You can go right now to the website and hear some testimonials from some parents that met these kids. They met the kids on their level because there's an adult workbook that goes along with our kids' books. And then the kids got a set of books to take home. And that's my heart's desire, is that every child meet Sammy Saver, Carla Credit, My Money, Charlie Checkbook, and I'm Investor. You get to meet them, bring them home, introduce them to your kids, your family, and everyone will be better for it. Okay, well, I'm going to wrap up this episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, maybe you've got a business or some learning, something that could help our audiences, we'd love to hear from you. So reach out to us if you'd like to join me in studio one day, or maybe on a Zoom if we're not in the same city. Love to have you. All right. Until next time, I'm going to say make it a great day, especially for your money and your summer and your family and the family finances. Mildred Dillon, CPA, signing off. We'll see you next episode.